Hey everyone, this is Avinesh Tripathi, and I am going to be your host for this space. I am a Kubesimplify ambassador, and I do a lot of things in Kubesimplify. And if you don't know what Kubesimplify is, so Kubesimplify is a community which has a motive to simplify cloud native, and we do that in a couple of manner. We do it in a couple of ways. So we publish blogs. So if you guys are interested in writing blogs, and so you can draft blogs and we can publish it for you. And if you want to check out our blogs, which are really amazing, we have got some good feedbacks on our blogs. Then you can go on to blogs.kubesimplify.com, wherein you can see all our amazing blogs. We also have a YouTube channel called Kubesimplify now, and we share a lot of cloud native videos over there. We have a workshop of Kubesimplify, which is really amazing. So you can learn DevOps and all those concepts like security, Docker, and all those things in a really great way. So Kubesimplify the channel. And not only that, so we have ambassadors, the Kubesimplify ambassadors, and we have mini projects for them. So we build mini projects. You can check our GitHub, which is Kubesimplify. You can find mini projects like our website, which has been made by the Kubesimplify ambassador. We have a project for tweets, which is ongoing for now. You guys can contribute for sure. And I have an announcement for another project. So if you folks are interested in building a project which involves clusters, then we have a new project called KSCTL, which is a command line tool, and you can create clusters on various platforms from that CLI. And not only that, we'll have some amazing features coming soon in future for the releases. So you folks can also contribute over there. And I'll also add one thing. The ambassadors, I said about the ambassadors. So we are going to add few ambassadors over here in the Kubesimplify team. So, and also our forms are always open. So you can, if you're willing to join our team, just you can get our form on our website, which is kubesimplify.com. And I think I've covered a lot of introduction. So let's go to the intro for the space. So if you can see the title, it says all. So it is everything about KCNA, and I am being joined by my two speakers who are really great, who are Andrew Brown and James Spurin. And you folks can introduce yourself to the listeners. Who's going first?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, I'll go first. Hey, everybody, I'm Andrew Brown. Thanks for coming out to this Twitter space. For those who don't know me, I create cloud certification courses for a variety of different cloud service providers and technologies. So one course I created is the KCNA, which if you are attendance here, that's probably the reason why you're here. I'm not a super Kubernetes expert, but I definitely have some tips and tricks to help you pass that KCNA. If you don't know, I'm in Canada.
Nice. And I'm James Spurin. So I recognize some of the faces here from people who've also done my courses as well. And yeah, essentially, my background previously was in financial services and engineering. I switched to content creation. I've got a course on Ansible, course on Kubernetes, and at the moment I'm releasing a course which is Cloud Native Containers, Kubernetes, and the KCNA exam. And yeah, I love the KCNA, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Well, I'm sure you folks should check their courses. They're really amazing. So let's begin with the space and talk about the KCNA. So my first question to the speakers would be the basic one: what KCNA is. So Who's going?
Sure. So the KCNA stands for Kubernetes Cloud Native Associate, and so it is the entry-level certification onto the Kubernetes, or we should say Cloud Native certification path. If you aren't aware, there's an organization called the CNCF, was it Cloud Native something Foundation? Always forget the name of it, but the point is that they're the body that creates these exams, maintains these exams, but it's even simpler than that. So the CNCF is just a subdivision of the Linux Foundation. And so if you are familiar with the Linux Foundation certifications, you know you're in good company because it's basically the same organization that's making them. The KCNA is, again, I said it's the entry-level certification, but I do find that it is more difficult than any other foundational certification just because Kubernetes in itself is a bit more challenging. So I don't always tell people to go for the KCNA first, or if they do, that they might want to have some prerequisites, which we can talk about in a separate question there. But yeah, there's two things in it: Kubernetes and cloud native stuff. So it's not just Kubernetes, but you're also exploring the entire cloud native ecosystem, community, and etc.
Brilliant. Yeah, and just to add my take on that. So the KCNA, just to actually give a little bit of an overview for some of you who are actually new to this certification path. Originally, the CNCF, the Cloud Native Compute Foundation, they originally created both the CKA and the CKAD, so Certified Kubernetes Administrator, Certified Kubernetes Application Developer. And there was a bit of feedback that went to the CNCF on this, in that the entry level for this was too high from a technical viewpoint, that it was a difficult exam, and there was a heavy focus specifically on Kubernetes, with both of them, the second character, the CK, being Kubernetes. So as a response to this, the CNCF, Linux Foundation, they created this exam, the KCNA, so Kubernetes Certified. I always get this acronym messed up. So same as you there, Andrew, I missed the "and" off as well. So they actually came up with this as the prerequisite for it. And much along the same way on this, I actually think that the KCNA, it's a very challenging exam. There's a lot of aspects outside of Kubernetes on this, and personally for me, those aspects, the theory side, make this one of the more interesting ones.
Well, that was a great insight. I didn't know about the story. So thank you for sharing that story to me about how the exam came and all those things. You talked about the difficulty, that how difficult this exam is in comparison to other exams, right? So now, I'll talk about this. Why one should take this exam? So why? I mean, what would be the benefit of if for me, if I give this exam and I get KCNA certified? So
Sure. So when I'm a multi-cloud content creator, so I create courses across the cloud, and cloud native and Kubernetes is just one big section of the cloud that if you never touch it, you'll be limiting yourself in terms of using best-in-class services or having more technical flexibility because you just left out this large part of cloud. And cloud native and Kubernetes is really this. It's very different from managed services, and so I do think that if you do learn a major cloud service provider, that it is a huge benefit to you to learn the other side of the coin, right? So that would be my reason for anybody to learn cloud native and Kubernetes. If your goal is to really be in the DevOps Kubernetes space, a lot of companies are using or looking to use Kubernetes. And even if you don't end up using Kubernetes at the end of the day, I feel that those skill sets have a lot of reusability other places, especially the Linux networking, which is one of the hardest components to this exam, or at least it's a concept that you need to learn, not necessarily questions on the exam, but something you have to get over.
Yeah, that's nice. Really nice, Andrew. So yeah, just to actually add to that, what I like about this in comparison to the Kubernetes ones, which are actually specified, is that with this curriculum, you've actually got much more of a widespread of topics that are actually covered. So if you actually look through that curriculum, you can see that Kubernetes is one aspect, but there's many other areas. And if you actually look at it, some of those areas might actually seem like areas, if you're in that DevOps, career, you're actually looking to pursue this, that you might not be interested. So a prime one that actually jumps out is community and governance, for example. And instantly you'd look at that and most techies would actually think, you know what, this is really, really boring. But when you actually dive in and you dig into these topics, they are super interested. So just as a prime example, on the community and governance side, you've got projects out there like Kubernetes and Linux, the two most successful open source projects that there are out there, and they're running under under these guises of the Linux Foundation or the CNCF, and they are completely vendor neutral. Now, when you've actually got a project like that, how do you actually maintain and manage this and manage things like disputes when there is no overarching body who's actually there to say, right, this is how we go ahead, this is not how we go ahead? And the KCNA covers topics like this as well, which I think are really, really useful. So you can actually apply those to your workplace. So, imagine you're actually working, you get into a dispute about, what approach you actually take for something that you're building. You can leverage these same techniques, which are actually being used by the likes of the Kubernetes project itself, to actually resolve. So not only do you actually, with this curriculum, from my viewpoint, do you become better technically, but it's a bit of an eye-opener on techniques that these huge organizations are actually using and how they manage big projects. And just to add to that as well, there's also great areas in this. So two particular ones in the curriculum: telemetry and observability and GitOps. From a KCNA perspective, they are like 8% of the curriculum, but those skills that you would pick up in the telemetry and observability and in the GitOps, to me, they are some of the most valuable skills, and they're kind of like the scaffolding that you would actually use around Kubernetes and DevOps. So yeah, I'm super excited about this, and that's why I like it so much, is because it crosses over with so many awesome areas.
Yep. So the curriculum, I saw the curriculum. It covers a lot of things. Moving ahead with another question that I have in mind. You said it gives me an overview of a lot of things. Do you think, as a beginner, if I'm aware about all those things, should a beginner like me skip this exam and go for a very much Kubernetes centric examination like CK and CKAD or something?
I still feel that this, even though it has cloud native in the name, there's still a lot of Kubernetes. Like there is a lot of them, and cloud native, the other components to it are still part of Kubernetes. Just as James was saying, it's like, how do you know how technology is being pushed for? Like, how do you know what technology even to adopt when you're using Kubernetes? And so understanding that cloud native aspect is going to help you choose whether you want a mature project or things like that. So it's not necessarily that these other ones are more geared towards it. It's just that the KCNA feels like an essential to me. But again, I came with no Kubernetes knowledge into it. For somebody that has a lot of experience or hands-on knowledge, they might have a different perspective.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement there with how Andrew has actually positioned that. For me, I don't think my recommendation now to people is not to actually skip the KCNA. Actually, do the KCNA as a prerequisite to the CKA, the CKAD. I actually did them in the order of CKA, CKAD, and then I did the KCNA. And from my viewpoint, I think in terms of the knowledge that I've actually learned in this one, you could cover off a large chunk of, the CKA, the CKAD. You could also cover off a chunk of the new Prometheus qualification. There's a GitOps qualification which is being made. All of this has crossover with the KCNA, which is by design. They wanted to actually give you a taste of all of these different curriculums. And just going back to something Andrew was saying there about having Kubernetes knowledge, you do need to have very good Kubernetes knowledge to actually pass this. A lot of people mistake this as, some kind of non-hands-on course curriculum that it's easy. It's not. I'll give you a prime example. So, for example, in Kubernetes, the pool of questions will always vary. But for example, when I was doing this, I needed to have knowledge of how to actually list out API resources in Kubernetes, how to be able to know which of those Kubernetes resources are namespaced or not. And that's not really trivial knowledge. It's kind of up there in at least the intermediate level. So yes, definitely 100% I would go for KCNA first.
Yep, for sure we should. I mean, everyone should go for KCNA, listening to all these points for sure. The other question I have is for, let's go for James first. So James, do we have a validity for this certificate?
Can you do we have a what, sorry, did you say?
The validity for the certificate.
And when you say validity, what do you mean?
Oh, sorry. So do you have to renew this certificate in after a particular term or something?
Oh, yes. I believe what I will try and do as we're actually talking, I'll log in and I will actually check. I think it's got a 3-year period on it in which it expires. I think it's the same as the CKA and the CKAD, but I'd have to double check on that in terms of how long it stays valid for. I'll do that as we're talking and I'll update you. Okay.
Yep, that's fine. And as I know, we cannot talk about the questions and all those things about the KCNA. So I'll go forward and say what resources one should look after for the preparation of this exam. Andrew?
Sure. Well, I would think the first place you go is to the Kubesimplify YouTube. But I have a KCNA course, and so all my courses always have a free tier, so you can watch all the videos. I think we have a free practice exam as well on our platform. Code Cloud is another provider. They're paid, but I always hear good things about them. Haven't audited their course, but I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing there as well. James says he has a Kubernetes course. I would go check that out as well. I remember when I was using Civo, they had training material. Like I think it's public facing now. And so that was good materials as well. I don't know if there's Is Catacode still a thing? I know O'Reilly used to have a simulator, but I don't know if that is still available. And when you get the KCNA, or no, maybe I'm thinking about the CKAD or the mid-tier ones, but there is what is it, killer.sh? That's the Kubernetes open source or free similar emulators. Maybe someone correct me on that. So there's a lot of resources there. The way I learned wasn't using. Well, I mean, I used a bit of all these resources, but like the community is super helpful. So if you reach out and you find somebody that is like really into the Kubernetes space, they're generally very helpful to help you out there.
Yep, for sure. The community is great. James, do you want to share your how did you prepare for the exam?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say there are stacks of resources out there. So as Andrew mentioned, I've got a course that I'm actually releasing off there. Andrew's got a course as well. There's videos. So for example, I know that Siam, he did an overview on the KCNA exam previously. And what I would actually say is, rather than, thinking about this from like a binary perspective of, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do this, is try and absorb and use as much as possible on this, because one of the challenges we have with the course creation or content creation for KCNA in general is that the curriculum is extremely vague. I mean, if you look through the curriculum, and I'm just going to actually bring this up, you've got references to Kubernetes resources. I mean, it doesn't actually tell you much about it, and that whole thing, each of them is kind of like a one word answer. And when you actually go through by each different person, so for example, myself, Andrew, Siam, whoever else has actually created content on that, they're going to have their own unique view, their own perspective on this, and we haven't actually got that much to work on. So you take, for example, in container orchestration, it says the word security. Now, security is absolutely huge, and there's 1,000,001 different ways that can actually be looked at. So in terms of research, my best advice on this is to actually go out and, prior to actually taking the exams, absorb as much as you can from different sources. So my own, Andrew, different books which are out there, different videos on YouTube. And the good thing is, remember, you do get another you automatically get a free retry with this. So even if you don't actually make it the first time, you could find out what areas you're rusty on, and then you may want to revisit one particular resource if they've focused more on that one area that you struggled on.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to say, because mine, I focused a lot on Linux networking because I was like, wow, this is hard. So I just really went hard on that one. But then things like observability with Prometheus, I didn't do much with because I wasn't exactly sure on how to provision it. So yeah, I think the learning resources there might be a bit unbalanced, but I think people have that two-time, they have two tries at it. So I like James's strategy there.
Yeah, just to add on to the back of what you were saying there as well, Andrew, just further to this. So something to actually think about with this. So the KCNA is that gateway qualification. It's the gateway qualification for cloud native and Kubernetes. And I'll pick another example. So RBAC, for example. RBAC is an area which is actually covered, which is actually covered as part of the KCNA examination. And in terms of what you actually need to know for this, you haven't actually got to be an expert on RBAC for you from an exam perspective, with this being the primary certification in this path. But you do really need to have a good understanding of it. And something to actually think about here, if you were actually looking to do the KCNA to advance your career or opportunities, and let's just say you went for a job interview and someone actually said to you, right, tell me what RBAC is. From a knowledge perspective of what you actually need for the KCNA, you probably don't actually need that much. You could probably get away with saying something like, it's a security control for managing access to resources in a cluster. But we all know from a job interview perspective, that's really not going to cut it. You're going to get drilled in a lot more. It's not going to be, hey, you answered that, congratulations, you got the job. They're going to want to know about config, certificates, roles, cluster role binding, etc., etc. And this is the thing which the message I'm actually trying to get across here with the KCNA and your research is, think of this more than the exam as well. Think of it for what you actually need. And again, by absorbing, we're all building this content from a very vague list. So, for example, there might be a section in my course which I really dive into, and Andrew Brown does less so. And then there might be one in Andrew's one where he goes into it really, really deep, and I hardly touch it, or I don't touch it at all. But yes, think of the KCNA as a good abstract knowledge on these things, but you really do also need to have the knowledge behind it, just not that little bit of theory.
Well, that's an amazing point to make. Thank you. Moving ahead with the other question, which is very important in terms of exams. So, how much time one should consider before giving this exam? So, the preparation time. Let's go ahead with Andrew.
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat that question one more time? I was just prepping resources here.
Yeah, it's okay. So I was asking the preparation time one should consider before giving this exam. So how much time you should prepare and then give this exam? Do you have a?
Oh, sorry. In terms of study time,
Yep.
I have a recommendation. It's in my course. I can't remember what it is. I just don't want to quote it wrong, but. I would say that aside from the time recommendation, which is whatever I say in my course, it's right in the beginning, so it's very easy to find. I would say that not just doing the watching the videos is enough. You should really put into practice your knowledge, because that's going to really help a lot. So I'd say that if you can launch a cluster and do a bunch of things and work with ingress controllers and stuff like that, you're probably most of the way there. So, I would say think of it as your proficiency with being able to do something not just as opposed to the time frame. You can do it in a month. So, I just, again, I can't remember the exact amount of time, but I'd say if you're good with your studies, then a month's time is enough to go for that exam.
Yep. James?
Nice. And I would be going along a similar chain of thought there. I don't actually typically recommend, this amount of days or this month, more directly when you're actually comfortable with doing different things. I mean, it's going to vary for everyone. Some of you have got family, etc., and as soon as the kids dynamic is in there, I think you can instantly times that by a 1.5 on any standard guesstimation. So yes, I would actually say look through that curriculum of what you've actually got there, and just make sure that you're comfortable with all of those different areas in the curriculum. And as I said before, you can actually you could take a go at this, and it really doesn't matter if you actually fail it, because you do get a second free retry anyway. Oh, and just following up from the previous question, I logged into the Linux Foundation. So I did the KCNA on September the 5th, and it expires September the 5th, 2025. So it is 3 years that you have that valid for.
Thank you, James, for sharing that. I'll go with the question that you folks are discussing about the syllabus thing, the course and all those things. How much one should go in depth for various topics? So, like, let's say for observability and all those things, how much in depth one should go for this exam? Let's go for James.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, it does actually map out the percentages on the curriculum. So, for example, it's got 46% as Kubernetes fundamentals, 22 container orchestration, architecture is 16, and then you've got observability and application delivery as 8%. The one which really jumped out to me the most is that 46% one, the Kubernetes aspect. What you've got to take into account, something to actually note, and something I'm aware of with the examination, there's a huge pool of questions, and when you actually take the exam, you will get a subset of that pool. So, for example, my experience of what I actually had in the exam could be very different to what Andrew experienced. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. When I did it, I felt like there was a heavy emphasis on the Kubernetes side, but I don't actually know if that was just potluck with the pool that I ended up on the day. But certainly looking through the curriculum, I would say that I did receive a question at least on every one of those ones which were actually mentioned there. So where it actually on the curriculum, where it breaks it down, service mesh, storage, serverless, community and governance, there was at least a question on each one.
Yeah, and the some questions are technical and other ones are not so technical. I mean, in terms of things that you didn't have to go deep on, like I didn't, again, it depends on the pool, but like it wasn't like how do you set up Prometheus, or it wasn't like how do you set up Argo. Those kind of auxiliary things were not those services weren't necessarily you need to know how to do them, but all the core stuff, like doing deployments or understanding like replica sets and stuff like that, those are more technical. So all the core content you definitely want to know in more detail. But I think the curriculum speaks for itself. The ones with the lower percentages are the ones you're not going to need as much hands-on action with. But the distribution really, like when I took the exam, I didn't feel that it was like one-to-one reflection of the percentages. But again, keep it the core skill, the core stuff, and you should be okay.
Yep, that answers my question for sure. The next question I have is, what are the expectations from a KCNA certified person? Andrew?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess we're saying, like, if I pass the exam, like, what is the outcome in terms of like maybe able to getting a job in Kubernetes or being able to do things in Kubernetes? Is that what we're going along with?
Yep.
Okay, great. So Well, I can tell you the reason I made the KCNA course is because we're migrating our infrastructure over to Kubernetes. And, like I made the whole course. I learned everything about it. I went pretty deep into Kubernetes. I still can't deploy to Kubernetes because the thing is that I can, like, if there was already an existing cluster, I could work around it, know what to do. But there's still a component that is missing, which is like deployments. So, you still need to know how to set up, like we talk about GitOps, but you have to know how to set it up and do it the right way. And maybe work with Helm charts and things like that. So I do feel that it'll get you into a good position, a good practical position. But I do feel that you have to go a little bit farther. I can't say whether or not you wouldn't get a job because there's people that like I make a lot of certification courses. So like the CLF CO1, which is the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, everyone says you can't get a job with it, which is not true because I have people messaging me and saying, hey, Andrew, I took this foundational certification and I got a job. So it's really going to be dependent on not just whether you have a certification, but your prior background, the stuff that is there. But I would say that you'll feel very confident working with Kubernetes and you'll be in a very good position to close the gap on whatever missing knowledge, if there is any, to get the job or to actually use Kubernetes in production for your own use case.
Yeah, that's a nice overview, Andrew. So from my view, to add to that, I think it essentially the question, what is the expectation? It is what you put into it. So I've known some people and they've actually passed the KCNA and they've literally put the bare minimum into it, but it does actually come across quite transparently when that has actually been done. You have conversations, you talk about simple things, and these are areas which are actually covered in the KCNA, and it's like, okay, you've passed this, but you don't really know what's actually going on here. And I think the big risk, and again, it comes down to what you're hoping for, what your expectations are. If, for example, using the example which was summarized, you're looking to get a job. So when I worked in financial services, so I used to work at Goldman's and Nomura, and I used to get pulled in to do a lot of interviews. And something I saw time and time again was you'd get somebody who would actually come in, and some of them would have like a list of certificates as long as your arm. And then you'd have an area that you're actually interested in for the role, and you'd start quizzing on that particular topic. And it's like, hang on, you've passed this exam, but you're really, really struggling with the basics. And my viewpoint on this, and what I like to actually promote to people, is yes, get that KCNA qualification, but use this as an outline, an incentive to actually progress your learning. So, for example, if you take each of those topics in the curriculum, you break them down into subtopics, and then you go off and you learn and you actually practice doing these various different things. So you're actually doing stuff with pods, with secrets, with deployments. There's so many resources out there. I think if your viewpoint is career progression or actually getting a job, you'll have a much better opportunity. And something that this reminds me of. Previously, I did my my master's in software engineering, and I was going down that route previously as a software developer for a career. And there's a partnership. They're called Dytel and Dytel. They make these books on everything. So you've got Java, C, C++, and essentially people actually say with that, if you take their book and then you follow every topic in that, and you actually go through and you practice every topic related to the language, you'll be able to go out and get a job. And I think the same thing actually applies here with the KCNA. If you actually break that down and you put the time and effort into it rather than just the bare minimum, that will serve you much, much more. And, essentially using that KCNA opportunity, i.e., I want to get this, as a motivator so that you put the effort into your learning and passing.
Yeah, and just to tag something on there on the end there, all certifications are imperfect. But like in practice, when you go and you're going to go set up your own Kubernetes cluster and stuff like that, you're going to discover things like, oh, I need to know how to utilize a service mesh. Did any of the exams cover any specific ones in detail? Well, no. So then you're still going to have to fill that gap yourself. In that example, like you'll need to make sure you network. So for me, when I want to learn service meshes, I go talk to Marino, who's on the call. I just saw he's here now. And that's my point, is that you need to leverage your network to fill those gaps. You need to set out your own personal learning roadmap. And in practice, things are always different. Like I didn't find out till I actually was trying to put in production that I really didn't know how to do the GitOps, the deployment, or like, okay, we know that we are supposed to use this tool, but like, what is proper namespacing? Because it's not necessarily they're going to test you on that. They'll tell you like, what a namespace is, but like, what should you put in a namespace? What should you not put in a namespace? And some of these things are more practical. So you have to go out there and start talking to people and fill the gaps yourself.
Yeah, nicely put.
Yep, that was really great. Before I move ahead with my next question, I'll just say to folks who have joined, if you have any questions, just drop in the comment and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And maybe my last question for you folks would be, what advice would you give to a person who is starting in tech, and knowing to the fact that the terminologies could be really overwhelming to those who are transitioning to another to this tech field from another field. So what's your take on that?
If we're talking specifically about like tech jargon that is throwing people off, the idea is to just make a mental model in your head. It's a concept my friend Hiro really likes to utilize quite a bit. The idea is that you don't, like, even if you don't understand exactly what it is that you're doing, just try to relate it to something that is non-technical and work with that until you do acquire that knowledge. If we're talking about tech terms, I think the biggest thing is always to put words into action. So instead of just studying stuff, try to build something that you can actually use. Or if you're trying to get a job somewhere, try to build the thing that they would build. And you'll start running into places that is common ground for these companies that are hiring. And that is going to be the fastest track to help you in your career.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So, just with your question there. So, recommendations to new people in tech. I think keeping it quite abstract here. The first thing I would say is make sure you really focus on community. I mean, there is, we are all here in this Kubesimplify community that has actually been set up. And for example, when I'm a little bit older, when I started out, there wasn't really that much, so much in the way of community. It was, very disparate, very disorganized, and there are fantastic resources available now. And work with other people. If you actually get involved in communities and you start chatting to people, you can actually get great advice, which might save you 6 months, rather than just following down a path blindly yourself. As well as that, learning resources are absolutely available everywhere. So absorb yourself in many different learning resources. Don't be over fixated on one particular resource. And I say that about my own content as well. I mean, great if you like mine. If you do mine and you take away 2%, that's still a win. Do as many different ones as you can, because sometimes there just might be that little gem that you actually see in one of those resources that makes it stand out forever. I completely agree on the hands-on. The more you actually do of hands-on, I think a lot of there's a little bit of a trap you can fall into when you're actually learning, where you're sitting back and you're just absorbing, and you're just seeing everything flying by. Make sure you actually push yourself to get hands on and actually do this, even if the learning resource that you're doing doesn't actually have that flow. Push yourself to do that. And making projects yourself is my absolute favorite in terms of this. And just going back to the software development side, some advice I actually had on that from someone who was really good at software development. He could kind of work on every language, and essentially said to me at the time, go off, do your learning as quickly as you can, take some notes, but don't spend too much time. Find a project, apply what you've actually learned, and do it. Because the example he said, if you were doing software development, there's only so many Pythagoras calculators you can do before you lose the will to live. You need a project which actually is passionate for you, which you're interested in. And whilst that is one example on the software development, you can take that same example and you can apply it to everything. So if you're there with Kubernetes, build an application or a deployment that you might actually use, and have fun, enjoy it. You'll learn much more that way.
Yep, that's great. I see Sam here. So Sam, do you have something to add or say to the listeners?
Oh yeah. So first of all, thank you, James and Andrew. I mean, it's awesome to have you both spreading knowledge over here. I mean, you have been doing that with your content. So I just want to like thank them and also like market them a bit more because they haven't done it properly. So basically, James and Andrew create a lot of fantastic content. Like if you don't know, Andrew has created amazing courses on the cloud. Like probably if you have learned cloud, you must have come across some of the other resource from Andrew. And James put a lot of efforts in his videos. You can actually see the quality of content that he's creating, recording to the editing, and then the final touches that he gives to that. So it's amazing. The Docker extension stuff that he created was amazing. So, I mean, those are the type of content we want to see. Those are the type of resources we want to see. And I do remember some time back we did give away some Exam Pro vouchers as well from Andrew. So thank you again for that. Yeah, we have been doing stuff together, and very glad that Ayush. Who is one of our Kubesimplify ambassadors? He arranged this Twitter space with Andrew and James. So thank you for that. It was amazing idea, and you found the exactly right people for this particular space. They have great knowledge, and they are great human beings. On top of that, which is great. So they both touched on the community aspect, and they both are a big part of the community. And we as a community are thankful to them for being there in the community. So it's amazing that you are actually hearing from the experts And yeah, I just want to add, like, KCN is very close to me because I'm one of the SMEs for this particular exam. So it's pretty close to me. I really enjoyed creating the exam, and I hope with all the learnings that you got from James and Andrew, you'll prepare for the exam well, and you'll get certified and move on with either some of the other stuff that you want to do in cloud native contribution, CK, or any of the deeper dive stuff that you want to do in the cloud native. So thank you, James and Andrew. And yeah, that's what I had to say.
That was amazing, Siam. I'm feeling very humbled after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayam, for joining as a speaker and letting the community know the about James and Andrew. So, if anybody in the listeners list have any questions for our speakers, can comment down, and we'll be happy to solve those questions.
Any questions? We're open to anything.
Yes, Ayush. I think you have a question.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
So hey James, hey Andrew, and so I'll just quickly jump into the question. Is so like I have chance to give KCNA certification, and every time I feel like I should go for the certification, it's like, oh, I am not ready for it, or it's like it is always with me, or I don't know if it's with everyone. It's like you are not that prepared for the certification. So how do you deal with this?
Well, I would say that you have an opportunity to fail, right? Like, and you should make use of that if you can. So, like, on other exams, like when people only have one, I'll be like, set a date, and no matter what, just tell yourself this is the time that I had to do it. This was the best that I could do it, and go sit in. If you fail, that's part of your journey, and you'll have to go do it again. Or maybe you'll fail, but you'll feel that you got a lot of knowledge out of it, and you won't even go back for certification. You'll just continue forward and fill the gaps yourself.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really good point. What I typically do, Ayush, is, for example, you're interested in doing the KCNA now. Whatever topic I want to learn or I want to study for, generally I would actually go out and I would do some research into that topic, and I would try and break it down into subsections as much as possible. So, you take, for example, the KCNA curriculum. You've already got a hierarchy of different topics that you can actually work through there. So you've got Kubernetes fundamentals, then you've got a subtree of Kubernetes resources, architecture, API, containers, scheduling. So you've actually got that tree, and then you've got resources like Andrew's, like my own, is other books, etc., out there. Go through those and roughly make a, almost like a mind map, a top level of everything that, every area which is actually in them. And generally, what I actually do then is, once I've actually got that, and again, various ways you can do this. You can pick it up from, the section breakdowns in a YouTube video, or the introductions in a book, where they're listing out the index. Then go through each of those topics, research them, make your own notes, make your own study notes and resources. And personally, I just treat it like that. I go through, I do my own notes for everything. And then once I've actually covered them off, I will have an attempt at the exam. So rather than you actually putting it off and feeling that you're not ready, you've essentially got a checklist which you're working through, and eventually you're going to tick all of those boxes and you just go for it. And again, if you fail the exam, it doesn't matter because you get another retry. And as Andrew mentioned there, you might actually choose at the end of it to not do the exam. Ultimately, you win in this situation, because what you end up is with a war chest of personalized notes and resources that you can refer to at any time. So if you're doing your job and you're there, I need to use some secrets, you would have already covered that off at some point. You could quickly jump in, whatever your notes are, whether you're using things like Notion or, other things like that. You've got all of those resources rapidly available to you. And yeah, that's how I would go about it if you're getting stuck like that and not hitting the end line, so to speak.
That is a great piece of advice. Thank you, James and Andrew. No, I have noted down the points and I'll apply it from now on. Thank you.
Well, we have, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrect, Skipio. Do you have any questions?
Hi. My name is Rakesh. I'm from Mumbai. So, first of all, thank you for everyone for having this session. So my question is, so I do have an experience in Java, and I don't have any experience in Kubernetes, and I want to start contributing to the open source. So what should be the pathway? Is KCNA the first step, or is there anything I can do for contributing to the open source in Kubernetes? Thank you.
Well, in the KCNA, it does tell you how the CNCF works. So it tells you the organizational structure about how they accept projects and things like that. So it could be good to just hone in on that one particular area. You don't need the KCNA to be a contributor. You just need to go and network, maybe start on GitHub and look around and talk to people and see what areas you can help with. But I'm not sure exactly how each project works. I think each project, because projects are made and then they're contributed to the CNCF and then they maintain them, but I'm not sure how they dish out responsibilities, so to speak.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and again, Scipio, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly there. What jumped out to me is you mentioned there from a Java background and looking to actually go as Kubernetes as a contributor or getting more involved in that. And something I often see with a lot of people is the Kubernetes aspect is seen as the pinnacle, the ultimate goal. And my remarks on that, yes, it absolutely is. It's brilliant to actually be contributing to this. It's got a lot of high visibility. If one thing I'd be considerate of is your existing container knowledge, and this is me putting my my Docker captain hat on, so to speak. Generally, my advice to a lot of people who are interested in moving on to Kubernetes is to spend some good time. Docker is very, very friendly to actually get in with that core experience of the different aspects of containers, container images, etc. There's lots of great resources. So Kubesimplify here, Siam's done lots of stuff on Docker. There's introduction, so on and so forth. And something which is important to note from a KCNA exam perspective, if you look at the curriculum actually specifies it as container orchestration. It doesn't actually have it as container fundamentals or container introduction. So, the takeaway on that, container orchestration is essentially running containers en masse. So if you haven't actually done much on that, that's a good side to actually go. If you're already working in Java, there's a real nice crossover. You could actually take your Java projects that you've actually got now, build images from them, get them actually running in containers, pushing them to the likes of Docker Hub, and then you'll have a much more natural transition to Kubernetes, i.e. orchestrating containers. In terms of contributing, a recommendation that I say to a lot of people, and one that I actually do myself, is get involved with the Kubernetes SIG docs. So I found on quite a few occasions, if you're actually there and you're studying Kubernetes and you look through the documentation for something that you're doing, there will sometimes be mistakes in various different things. You'll sometimes find something where it's not actually that helpful and you've had to go to another resource. That is an amazing entry point for being a Kubernetes contributor. You can actually take what you've got there and put a pull request in to update the documentation, and the community on that side, I love the SIGDocs community. They're really, really, really friendly, and you'll learn this whole process of how it works, because there's rules, there's processes. It can seem a bit overwhelming, and you can actually take it really, really far. So say, for example, you did something on the Kubernetes SIGDocs and you put in another kubectl example. You said, right, this one wasn't very good. You've done it. And there's not that much in the way of language perspectives. You've then got an opportunity to actually, take this actual pull request that you've done and push it to all of the other different locales. So, SIGDocs, Japan, Korea, Hindi, etc. You've got that wide space you can do it, and before you know, that one contribution that you've done actually can turn into 10 contributions, and you really, really learn stacks from it. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you, folks, for answering this question. I hope that answers your question. If I'm not wrong, Rakesh, you said, right?
Yes, thank you very much.
Cool. So I just have a small announcement to make. So we were talking about the giveaway, and Andrew again was kind enough to do another giveaway for his Exam Pro KCNA course. So we'll be giving out 10 vouchers to the winners for the Exam Pro KCNA course by Andrew, and he has already given me the coupons, and he'll be selecting the winners. So there's a pinned tweet that is there that Ayush is just pinning to this particular Twitter space, but you can see that in the thread as well. Where to participate, you just have to like and retweet that tweet, follow Kubesimplify, Andrew, and James, and fill out the form. So there's a Google form, simple name, email, and Twitter handle, so that we can Andrew can verify and check, and we'll be announcing that in 24 hours. So basically, you have 24 hours to fill that, and in a day, after a day, we announce the winners. So I think that's the best you can get out of this space, because you already got all the knowledge now for KCNA, and now you'll be getting all the preparation material as well for KCNA. So you have like everything in your hands to prepare for KCNA. So make the best use of it. Make sure to find the tweet and fill out the form. So yep, that's what I wanted to say. And thank you, Andrew, once again.
Thank you, Sayam, for letting us know. And
Avinesh,
go ahead.
just before you move to the next question, I have a few pins to do. So, there is also a pin tweet in this space which has all the resources mentioned by Andrew. So, you can just swipe on the right if you are only able to see the first pin tweet. So the first pin tweet is about the exam pro KCNA course by Andrew. That is basically a giveaway. When you swipe right, you will find all the pinned tweets. Make sure to check them all out. And yeah, that's all. Also, I forgot to give a shout out to Kubesimplify and SIM before. And so basically, so this is the benefit of joining good communities, right? I got giveaway voucher by SIM for KCNA. So you folks might also get connected or join Kubesimplify on various socials, and also follow Andrew and James, and support the work they are doing, and you might also get such benefits. Yeah, thank you.
And I'll say thank you, Ayush, for helping me with the pinned tweets and comment section. For folks who don't know, I'm having a bug, so I cannot see tweets, the pinned tweets and the comment section. So thank you so much for helping me out with that. And thank you, Andrew and James, for joining us and sharing your knowledge. I really got to learn a lot of things about KCNA. So thank you. And I'll be waiting for a couple of minutes to see if there's question in the comments.
It's probably just whilst you're waiting for any hands there for questions, it's probably worth mentioning to about the opportunities with exam vouchers. So the Twitter handle, so the Linux Foundation Twitter handle is worth following if you don't actually follow that already. They often will post every now and again. So they'll post like a 40% discount voucher for that. And not just the KCNA, it often covers many of the exams. And failing that, something that you can actually do if you're looking to take any of these exams, if you actually if you buy one of the early bird KubeCon tickets, so KubeCon is both virtual and in person, and as soon as they announce, they generally have these early bird tickets. They're about $10 or so, and if you buy that early bird ticket, then when KubeCon actually finishes, you will generally get an email which will be sent through to you, and that email will have a discount code on it. So again, you can knock off like 40% off the exam, which is significantly more than the $10 that you actually paid for KubeCon. And you get to actually attend KubeCon virtually as well, which is awesome. And Siam, you sometimes do as an ambassador as well. Sometimes you're doing things with discounts and opportunities. Am I right?
Yeah, sometimes I do, and sometimes I give away free vouchers as well. That's where you have to like keep an eye on the tweets on Kubesimplify, and you might be lucky enough to get something. Like Ayush got the voucher, and if he's lucky, he might get Andrew's course, and then he's all set to take and pass the exam.
Winning, love it.
Thank you, folks, for doing some awesome work for the community. I just wanted to ask Andrew and James if you folks have a couple of minutes to answer. We have two questions from Asad, and I see Shakib having questions, if time permits.
Sure thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi there, Sayam, Andrew, and James. So my question was, you have shared the resources below. I want to know, like, in what order should I explore for a better understanding?
Yeah, so I think James said this before, but it really is going to come down to your what?
The order in which I should explore the resources given.
Andrew, I think your line
Okay,
cut out then.
somehow I think I can't hear.
Oh, I think Sakeb is having some mic issues. However, please continue.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I see Andrew is having mic problem as well.
All right, just while that's getting sorted, I'll take this. So something that was actually saying earlier. You've got many different resources out there, and all of us kind of teach and go about our styles in different ways, and I think I personally, I think the best thing to actually do is find those available resources that you're actually interested in, and give each one of them a little bit of a try. Do maybe 20 minutes or so on each of them, and see if one of those ones actually blends to you more so, or if you connect with that one even more so, because you're more likely to actually continue and pursue if you're if that one actually appeals to you and you're actually committed. And I mean, what one of the things for me, for example, where I have my courses, generally I get a lot of positive feedback from different people, and it comes through, and yeah, it's great. But every now and again, there will be somebody, and just being completely honest, we don't click. My style might not work for them, or they might actually prefer something else, and that's absolutely fine. As the saying goes, you can't please all of the people all of the time. So the important thing, there are so many opportunities and resources out there for you. Look through them all, see which one or which ones you actually like using, and give a little bit of time as a exploration phase, and then more importantly, whichever one it is, commit to it and get that KCNA done.
Well, we lost the person who asked the question, but yeah, thank you so much for sharing that as well. So folks who have joined, thank you so much, first of all, for joining the space. Also, fill out the form for KCMA Exam Pro voucher giveaway, which is the pinned tweet. And also follow our speakers, James and Andrew. I don't see Andrew. I think there's internet connection things going around over here. So do follow Andrew and James, and also follow Kubesimplify. We'll see you guys on another awesome space from Kubesimplify in future for sure. And also, if you still have some questions, do join our Discord server, and we can sort that things out there. Thank you, James, for joining, and it was really a great time. And thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you. It's been absolutely brilliant. Really appreciate it, and hats off to the Kubesimplify team. You're doing a fantastic job in sharing knowledge out there. And yes, your content is absolutely awesome. Well done, everyone.
Thank you, folks.